Welcome to the Entrepreneurial CEO Podcast, where we dive into the real stories behind building and scaling a business. Each episode, we sit down with CEOs, founders, and leaders to uncover hard-won lessons in leadership, systems, and team building. Listen in each week to learn directly from real business leaders who have been in your shoes, had success, made the mistakes, and all of the messiness that comes with building a business. If you're ready to learn from real-world leaders and gain insights you can apply today, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Katherine, thank you so much for being here. Cato, good to see you again.
Good morning. Let's roll.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Everybody,
Great.
Today's guest is Katherine Horrigan, the visionary and founder and CEO of Dance Academy of Virginia, where she's built a 5-star dance community from the ground up in the middle of the pandemic, which is fascinating. But Katherine's journey is not just about growing the studio. It's about translating the discipline of a performer into the grit of an entrepreneur. And so we love to hear more about that, how you went from being, a performer and now a thriving business owner. Spent decades dancing with Ali Tzu, choreographing for world-class stages, and even co-founding a nonprofit that hit Jacob's Pillow and the Kennedy Center. And then in 2020, right in the middle of COVID, turned these lessons into a thriving business that now serves nearly 1,000 students across 2 different locations and maybe potential for growth in the future. So Katherine, super excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. Great to be here.
Before we go into all the questions, maybe just a little bit more about yourself or the business.
Yeah.
Sure, great. Yes, as you said and shared, I was a professional dancer for 10 years and toured the world and worked with many amazing dance companies and artists. And from there, I found that in the arts profession, it's really important to have good management behind the scenes in order for us to excel in our craft. And I found myself super curious about improving how dance companies are operating. So I got into the management side. I did my master's in arts management. I was on the nonprofit side for a while and was able to really grow in leadership, working for a dance school for many years and developing it, growing it from a medium-sized company to a super large company, building teams. We had over 2,000 students. And then that company closed during the pandemic. And though I realized I'd been running it as if it was my own, it was not. And for the first time I realized that what I probably always should have been doing was running my own company. It was an opportunity for me to bring all my strengths and interests together. And I'm an avid learner. I never stop wanting to learn and improve myself. So I have had fun in the process of growing a business, moving myself out of a job over and over again. So when I started my company, I had not been teaching for a while. I'd been managing a large team. And so I had to go back into the studio and teach again. I was running the administrative side, and building things from the ground up in a really fast pace. I had a month from the moment to launch to get the season up and running in the middle of the pandemic. So it was a hustle. And even though I knew what was needed, I couldn't do it all fast enough. And I brought a team together quickly. And we grew really fast in that first season. And so I actually followed up later with building in systems because that seemed, less urgent in the immediate moment. During COVID, what was most important was building trust with the community. So we had to get really creative. So when I think back about my career as a dancer, there were a lot of crossovers in, learning tools and skills, which I actually share with families, our customers. Like, actually, you're not just learning dance here. You're actually here to build tools that you're going to use to succeed in anything that you attempt. And so I've actually put that into practice multiple times. And so, for example, with the build of the company during COVID, we had to get so creative. How are we going to bring customers in multiple different ways, all the different ways that they were comfortable or uncomfortable with being in public spaces? So we adapted we listened. We got curious and figured out what people needed. I was recently actually on, we had an event and adults came. We had an adult event and people that had been with me from the beginning were there and started sharing with me saying, I remember having a phone call with you that very first month and you made me believe it was possible. You built the trust with me. And that was just great to get that feedback all these years later to say that they're still a customer because of that one-on-one, trust building exercise that I did. And so we figured it out. Having a great team that cared about the work, and we had a great time. We also made it fun. In a very scary season, we made our environment fun and safe, both for kids and for parents. So the community grew with the students, but also with the families.
Wow.
It's pretty incredible, Mike. I mean, they grew to 1 million. They did a million in their first year during COVID. How did it grow so fast?
Incredible.
Why did it grow so fast?
Yeah. Took the words out of my mouth. Same thing.
So a part of that adaptability and that listening was how do I create a space that people want to be inside, also those that want to be online. If you remember that year, kids were not in school yet. And, depending on the state, different areas were more conservative. We still had to social distance 6 feet apart, I believe. So we created a pod classes with schoolmates. So we had, our community had a lot of private schools and neighborhoods. And, so we had classes set up with families, maybe larger age ranges than you would normally do in dance. We allowed siblings to dance together, neighborhood kids to dance together. And then we would do a lot of classes with schools. They would come, the private school kids, a whole grade would be in a group together. So we could get as many kids together that were already familiar with each other. And that's how families felt safe because they were isolating in these small groups. So what that did was create word of mouth growth immediately.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I had to tell 5 parents and they went and told everybody else and all their friends. And from there, we exploded because we were creating what they needed in a time that there was nothing else going on. So here's the other kind of blessing in disguise. And a note for when, things seem chaotic and the worst time to start a business from what, common perspective would be like, that's a terrible time to start a business. But it turned out to be an ideal time because the entire market and community was in flux. So I had an opportunity to compete with larger competitors in the dance market because everyone was losing students and everybody was up for grabs. And we also could easily get in because if you think about dance, it's not just, my competition is not just other dance studios. It's anything a child will do after school, anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So it's sports, it's tutoring, it's anything after school that is going to engage a child. And we're in an area where parents, they want their kids to go, have the most elite experiences. They want them well-rounded. They want them to do many sports and activities. So that year, not much was happening. So it was actually quite incredible. There were no other activities for the most part that kids could do. And we created a space that people wanted to be a part of. So that actually is how we, launched so quickly and grew so fast. And then it was obviously essential to maintain that trust and build it from there. Because now we're at, I think in the bio, you said something close to 1,000 students. We're actually at over 1,300 now. So, with 2 facilities. We continue to grow.
That's such a good example of like when people something catastrophic happens like COVID, people pull back and they're afraid and they're afraid to take the risk, but you leaned in and were able to scale and grow because you found this opportunity and took advantage of it, right?
Exactly.
Not being afraid. It's another pattern. We talk about the patterns we hear on this podcast. And Mike talked about it with pricing, people not raising prices because they're afraid. Some entrepreneurs fail because they're afraid. So fear is such a powerful thing, but you weren't afraid. You dove in and scaled and hit 1 million in the first year. It's amazing.
I'm still afraid. That's not.
You did it anyway.
You just do it anyway.
You do it anyway.
But, I heard in that story, there's a really big strategy component there. And And what I mean by that is like a lot of times incumbents are hard to take off their perch sometimes, but they
Mhm.
also get lazy and they're not used to dealing with some conflict in the space. And so you came in, what I loved, you said you came in when like the industry was in flux and those big incumbents were losing customers and it's so hard for them to change. You started from the ground up and said, we're going to build our studio to support this community in need right now. And then you can transition it later to face to face. But that's interesting because that's an example of a business started where you were just stealing business because you had a better offering because you could do it from the ground up and they couldn't.
That is 100% true, Mike. Being agile, adaptable, no matter how big you are, is still essential. And I think of that now,
Huge.
looking back, is like when I need to make decisions and it feels too slow to get the ball rolling and to make changes, I don't want to ever be in that position where I can't strategically adapt to the environment or the economy or whatever's going on. But it is true that, a larger organization has more hoops to jump through and they can't change things, or they may not want to because it's been working for them so long. They're not used to having to make changes. So yeah, having a team, and this is again part of our foundation and our values, is making sure we are constantly growing, that we're in that mindset to improve ourselves, improve the company. We receive and are receptive to feedback from our customers and community and any stakeholders. And that helps us make sure that we're not stuck in the corner thinking we know best all the time, that there's probably, new and better ways to evolve.
Yeah. It's a great point. Adaptability and agility. Yep.
So you've seen some great growth. What's next for you in the next 1 to 3 years, and what do you see as the biggest obstacles between you and those milestones?
Sure. So, just one step back, when I was thinking about growing from one facility to two, part of it was demand and where my customers were based and people coming from great distances. I said, okay, well, really I had my eye out for additional space. There's only so many studios I could have in the building that I was originally in. So I had my eye open, and then something came on the market for sale, and I wasn't even considering that neighborhood or buying a facility, but it was such a great opportunity. It had formerly been a yoga studio, so the space was already built out, an old 100-year-old building that had been a movie theater in the 20s, in an amazing neighborhood of families, kids, great walkability. So though it wasn't my original game plan, it turned out to be a great, thriving, vibrant neighborhood that was hungry for dance. So we moved on that very quickly. And when you buy a property versus lease, you don't have any runway until you start paying your mortgage. So we were up and running like day two. And it was also the middle of a season. So that was also interesting. We kind of slowly built out the space and improved the aesthetics and of it as we went. But we got things going immediately. So from there, I started thinking, I said, well, this is an obvious model. I can continue to find locations and start from ground up in different communities. These two facilities are 30 minutes apart, but they're still in a similar region. And so I could broaden that, or, I'm in a densely populated community right outside DC. So I could put a location between my two even and still probably get customers. But then I started to think beyond that. I said, well, that's a way, but it's also a heavy lift and it's a start from zero every time.
Yeah, it's hard.
I said, well, what if with all my background now in operating these companies, could I acquire studios that already exist, help them grow and scale? And that's basically what my next, plan is, to look at how do I grow through acquisition instead of from ground up.
Quick question. Totally love that. I mean, you're in the, I know where you're in the Alexandria area, right? And
yes.
So let's just say, for example, you have a target, you buy a company, and is your plan, and you asked me this question, off the show, it's like, is your plan to land and then expand it, like you're going to buy it and then you're going to teach them, like you have a playbook you feel that you could implement in the right studio that would help them take their business to another level?
100% on the
Wow.
operating side. Yeah,
That's what I meant.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And even before I had my own company, I was running someone else's. So I've had, 15 years at this on the operating side. So there's not one way to do it, of course, but there are better ways. And there are many systems that can be set up in place to allow the programming, the dance programming, to be the highlight and to run really well. But there's also some programming, because I've talked to other dance studio owners who don't know how to scale, and they're stuck in the same place they are, and they often don't set up a good feeder program. And so when you want to have a school where you have children from 2 to 18 stay with you, and you have, a long lifetime value of a customer, you have to create programming that starts at a young age. And that's when people start, building a relationship or think that they want to join dance, is when the kid is 3 and 4, and there's not much else for them yet at that age. And so if you can capture them in that timeline, you have a better opportunity to win them over the course of time. And so I've noticed that that's also not happening across the board. Or people have a program that stops at age 6, 7, and they're really good at that young age, but they don't have the next steps for children, so they age out. So, definitely I think I can approach it from both the operation side, but also programming.
That's really smart.
It takes a special kind of person to teach 3 and 4 year olds in dance.
100%.
As the son of my mother owned a dance studio, and so I grew up that way. And I remember just going in, and she had me dancing at, I think, I'll have to ask her, 5 or 6, and we used to go to dance. And then we'd get picked up from dance by my dad, and we'd get put into our football equipment in the car, and then go to football practice. And so we did that for years.
I love that. It's great. That's great.
And then we had the recitals and the whole bit. Oh my gosh.
We're going to get some clips. We're going to get some clips of you dancing, and we're going to weave them into the intro of the podcast. We're going to have to figure that out.
We need to see this, man.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Sure. The other night I'm sitting here, and we had a couple tequilas, and I'm sitting in the backyard with my wife, and she's got the Sonos blasting in the backyard, and she starts playing Barry Manilow, which is what I grew up to. My mother was a huge Barry Manilow fan, and I even did a routine with her to Can't Smile Without You. Can't believe I'm putting this out in the world. And so I was sitting in the backyard, and I'm just dancing to all her old songs, doing the moves, and she's videotaping me and sending it to my mother. And then you get the best compliments from your mother ever, right? You're like, you could do no wrong. Anyways, sorry. Off on a tangent.
Boosting up that confidence.
That's not going on. That you could put that in. That's fine. That'll be a clip.
Well, you can also then state your case about how dance helped you with your entrepreneurial journey. Yep. You're another example for me.
Exactly. It's totally right.
Yeah.
I literally had no idea. And I'll get back to you, Andrew. I was giving a speech in Florida like 5 years ago. I invited my mother to come watch me, and I spoke to the group, and that's when I realized that my mother was my inspiration, that I didn't even realize it. And I told the story for the first time in public, and you can imagine she was in the audience. So it was pretty cool. Anyways, back to you. Sorry about that. Tangents.
No, it's good. It's good stuff. You mentioned systems before. And maybe we're talking about different things, but as you've grown, what kind of systems have you had to put in place for your teams in terms of I don't know. I mean, I can't even, this type of business is new to me. What kind of KPIs are you tracking? What are you,
Absolutely.
What's your scorecard?
Love some KPIs. Oh yes. And I have a scorecard. So we have a class management software that we use. It's common in the dance industry. Many dance studios utilize it for sales, and it has some tracking systems. That's my AirPod. But then there's a lot in the background in logistics and planning that we use to operate. That we need to work our systems. We also have a CRM that has been pretty customized for us. Work with a paid ads team, and they really help us optimize this. What's great about and I think this is something really special and unique that we do that makes a big difference. We make sure our process is, highly proactive. Our CRM is it's a tool but we have a team of people that are in our CRM daily and communicating with our customers. So the process that we use with our pipeline is high touch. And think about our customer base. We have parents, and they're busy, and they maybe have multiple children all over the place. And so when someone reaches out to us, we make sure that we reach out to them immediately, and we have, whether it's phone, email, text, and we start a conversation. And text is one of the most common forms right now to communicate. Yeah. It's very casual, and you can have an ongoing conversation. And so, and I don't have a high-level trained sales team. These are dance administrators, but we've taught them some strategies of how to keep conversations going, how to get people interested and eager. So it's very high-touch, proactive, and our goal is that we're getting them in to do a trial class, but it's actually a paid trial class. Often in dance, it's a free trial, but during COVID, we took some risks there and said, hey, we're going to, level this up a bit, because the market that we're seeking here is going to have to pay quite a lot for these classes. This tuition's not cheap. And so it's just another stepping stone to get the right type of customer in our doors, and that they commit to that trial and show up, because we don't have a lot of room in the classroom or space and time. So we want to, have that commitment and have them show up. So our show rate is really strong. And from there, then the next strategy and step is to get them from a trial student to join as a customer. So I have an admin team. This is also not common in dance studios. There may be one front desk person, but we actually have quite a substantial team of people that are working behind the scenes and at the front desk to run the CRM and to make sure we're constantly in communication with potential customers, and then the follow-up. Then we have a new student pipeline. So what happens once they become a student, and then there's ongoing sequence of communication from there. And we're working to automate it. The more we do that, the better.
Hi, if you're a CEO out there who's struggling with focus for your company, aligning your team, accountability, if you're struggling with execution, connecting the dots from where you're at to where you want to be, we've got a great program for you here at MAP. My name is Michael Cato. I'm the CEO. Most importantly, I was a client for 15 years, sold my company to a public company, and then bought MAP so that we can help other entrepreneurs with this specific problem. We're a 60-year-old company. We've worked with 170,000 individual executives and CEOs. We've worked with 15,000 organizations. This is what we do. Click the link below to learn a little bit more about how people just like you, CEOs, have transformed their business and ultimately transformed their life by running through the MAP system.
That's super detailed.
Interesting. Yeah, that was good. I love that.
And then I think you asked me about KPIs. We track enrollments, we track retention and attrition. Huge numbers for us. They're so important over our seasons that we're retaining a large majority of our student body. We track the finances, of course. And then in the CRM, we track the stages that people are in and our percentage of conversions in lead to trial and trial to student.
Yep. Just tracking the funnel. That's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you started to implement AI anywhere in that process, from the CRM or any within those systems, to help to maybe identify cohorts that are at risk, or figure out how you can, convert more people?
That is my next goal. There are some automations already built in, but I think the next step will get to be more fine-tuned with AI. And there's more and more, there are more tools out there now than ever. So we definitely want to, it's so important in our industry to maintain the customer relationship with our team. So there is a level of, we need to be able to get on the phone with them. We need to see them face to face. We want to keep the experience human. But there's so much behind the scenes that could support us with AI. So we're actually in the process of studying and understanding how we can optimize with AI.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that comes to mind to me is, something like attrition or retention is so important. Oftentimes people wait too long until the decision's already made, like, hey, we're already quitting. And then they try to recover that lost customer. With some of these tools now, you can have predictability around like, okay, we see these signals, these 10
100%.
customers are at risk. And so you need to dive in. It's like a signal to you like, hey, pay more attention here. You need to dive in and, have some other program for them or something to try to mitigate and, minimize some of that attrition. You
are right on 100%. We look at, and there's signals always out there, right? Kids are missing classes, right? They're out of town, right? There's, those kind of things. And when you get large, those things can slip through the cracks. You can't, so it's really important that we start to crack that code. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to stay at pace. Our costs will continue to rise because it requires people, resources to do what you just said at this point. So, yeah. Nice, yeah.
Mm.
Sorry, Mike, did you have a question?
No. I liked your response there about predictability and how we can use that. So I was thinking about when she was going, I was thinking about AI, agents that are available now, but we're still early in that. So it's kind of like, I feel like people are right now. We've gone through this phase of like, we're working onshore to now we've got VAs offshore that can help with things. And now it's almost like there's going to be a bunch of companies that skip offshore and go straight to AI agents, whatever that means. But anyways, 100%. Sorry, I'll send it back to you.
I think we're staying alert to that. And I've got, people in the business world that are, consultants and advisors in this. And so I'm trying to, learn and stay, pay attention as well to see, what we can use that won't take away the things that we know are really important, but also support the team so they can be, focused on the most important areas of the business. Yeah.
So when it comes to your growing, you've grown to 2 locations, tons of customers, additional locations in the future, perhaps. When it comes to training and upskilling your team, what's your approach? How do you make sure that they can step into leadership or management, or how are you mentoring these new people?
Mentorship's critical. I love to bring people up through the company and promote them. I think people that really care about the work we do and are in alignment with our values is critical. And I've learned over time to hire based more on values than just on skill, because how many times have I made that mistake where, you see amazing resumes, great skill, but they're not, not aligned with the values of the company. So when that is already in place, especially when they're already working within the company, and I see potential in team members, it's great to be able to promote them. And so, some of my leadership team I've done that with, and I've grown them into managers, and I give them, professional development opportunities because, it's being a manager is much different than being an operator. And so it's something they have to learn how to see things differently, how to manage teams of people. So some of it is built in through process, but a lot of it is just in how you think. And so, what's actually been really fun to witness with my leadership team, teaching and supporting them in decision making. Like how do we come to a decision, the right decision? Because they'll often come to me, and I'm sure this has happened to you, is like people come to you for answers and they just want you to make the decision for them. And like, well, actually, the leadership team as a group, collectively, you all have your perspectives and your areas of focus and oversight. So where are we all coming from and where do we need to head? So, I try to point the ship in the right direction, but I want buy-in and points of view from others, and that I'm not the only one, giving yeses and nos, that there's actually, so it's been fun to see that the decision-making process has evolved through time and practice and helping them see how to think about things. Like, let's look at things from, a variety of perspectives. But I love the mentorship side of it. And it's, I continue to grow. I'm doing my own work to make sure I'm a strong leader, in masterminds and in leadership groups and various, networks that keep me, fine tuning my work. But that allows me to bring more to them, right, from that side. I also love learning from different industries, not just staying in the dance bubble. So, that's helped them grow, I think, immensely. We read books. I have a leadership retreat, trying to pass on whatever I've gained over time and then help them see, what's possible for them. Because you can get very in your own little world, especially when you're on the operations side. The day-to-day needs of the company can be, just so heavy, or you can't look beyond it. But then for the rest of the team, the teachers and the administrators, we have a whole training process. And people come in with different experience levels. So it depends on what their track may need to be, but they have to teach our program from wherever they come. They have to be able to teach and give it the way we would like it to be done. So everyone needs training.
Interesting. Is your leadership team, are they all dancers as well, instructors, or do you have leaders that aren't teaching?
In my case right now, they all have a dance background and they've all been in the studio as teachers at some point. And some of them have transitioned out and some are still heavily involved in the studio. So that tends to work and be pretty common. The company I was running before, there were some operators that were non-dancers but speaking the language, understanding it, maybe growing up doing it, but maybe not taking it to the professional level, still seems to be a great fit for us. But yeah.
I mean, if you can take, dancers, instructors, and then, and they say, okay, it's time for me to move into management. And if you can get them trained the right way, it's super powerful. It's kind of like at our last company, the food delivery business, Restaurants on the Run. Everybody funneled, believe it or not, eventually almost everybody had funneled up from being literally a driver in college. And then we trained them, sent them, we were a client of this company, MAP, and all of our managers got trained in a workshop that MAP does. And it just elevated not only their performance, but the way they were able to, manage their team and help coach them to high performance. That's the key. You're in a cool spot where you get to do that. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. And it doesn't always work 100%, right? Not everybody who is great at the craft of teaching in the studio is meant to be a manager or a leader. But those that are capable, I want those people on the team because they can grow with us and they can see a path for themselves, right? They can see a future for themselves. Otherwise, the dance process of being a teacher in the studio can be very draining over time. It's for young people. It's exhausting. It takes a lot of work. So they need to see that they're, when they're ready to retire, that there's a future for them if they're willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
So, it's exciting.
Yeah. We've said before, not everybody wants to be a manager. Not everybody should be a manager. And that's okay too, right? It's, you have to have those certain skills. You have to want to work with people and it can be trained, of course, but not everybody wants that. So when you look at your business today, if you could wave a magic wand and instantly optimize something, change something, improve something, what would that be?
Well, right now it's either more people or AI because it takes, I don't feel like we're able to move fast enough or get ahead of ourselves enough. The team is in a heavy season right now, but we thought a year ago we had some windows of opportunity where there were lighter months. There's not been one light month this entire year. So the growth, there's a point at which you grow big enough and the volume of customers requires more from everyone. So the seasons of planning that, we just launched our new season. We're enrolling now for the fall. Takes 2 months of preparation, but with all the other things going on, it was a rush, and it didn't happen as smoothly or as easily, and required a lot of work from my team. And so I see them so drained and working so hard, and we're on a race right now to get it all done. And then we're in recital season, and so it just never stops for them. So it's people, resources, it's AI, it's optimizing those efficiencies and redundancies down to templates. And so it's, moves faster.
Systems. Yeah.
You're saying all the right things. I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Do you understand the ratio between students and kind of whether it be supervisors or managers that you need in your business as you grow?
That's an interesting one. I haven't dialed it down into a data point yet, but I am curious about that because there's definitely a point. Not only do systems break when you get to a certain size, but then the team can't manage the volume, right? So from 1,000 students to 1,300, 300 more students doesn't seem like a ton, but it actually works fine in the classroom because there's still capacity room in the studio space for one teacher to teach, right? So we know how many students a teacher can teach at a time based on age, but the leadership team and the administrators have a heavy lift behind the scenes to support the customers. So yeah, I'd love to dial that in. I love numbers and getting all the data I can. So it'd be really fun.
Cool.
To get to that step.
I like that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned trying to keep up with the growth, which is a great problem to have, right? I think a lot of entrepreneurs would beg to have that problem. So congrats. But with MAP, we often, when clients come to us, we usually help them plug gaps in their systems that they can scale predictably. When you look at your business today, if you could get support in one area, whether that's systems, accountability, prioritization, what do you think moves the needle fastest?
One would be, I'd love a schedule builder. This could be software or AI tools, because the way we're building our schedule now is we're using Google spreadsheets, and then it goes into a software system. And I can't get the data I'd like out of that. So a lot could be automated there, where as we're building, I could understand, are we creating something that financially is going to work, right? And that data for me, I end up, producing later than I'd like, right? So I'd like to be able to fine tune things as we're going. So that's one for sure. We're running a lot of planning through Google and spreadsheets, and it would be nice to get everything into one place and have everything run through one system ideally. But class management software works in some ways, but the problem with it is it's not customizable enough for it to work 100% for our business. So there's things like, for example, we level our students every year, and we have to tell them what level they're in for the next year. So in order to achieve that with 1,300 kids, we can't have our teachers write handwritten notes. Sounds nice, but terrible idea. They would all quit. So, we do a mail merge, and everybody, we have a whole, big process of getting these kids leveled through Excel spreadsheets and making sure everything is accurate, because you cannot send anything. So there's a lot of checking and making sure things are correct, and then, mail merge, sending out these nice emails. So all that stuff could be, done in software in the future for sure, in AI.
Yeah. When you talked about the scheduling, I do think that's something that AI could probably optimize 100%. For you if you put in some of the data and prompted it with what you wanted to do. I bet it could help with the optimization of the scheduling.
100%. I know it's possible. Right now, it's just too manual. And so that was this year. I actually was ready to jump on working on some AI tools, but my time crunch to produce that before we actually had to produce the schedule was not enough for us to work on the development of it. So, next cycle, we'll definitely work on it. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the questions that we always ask guests on the show, MAP stands for Management Action Program, all about taking action. Is there something that you do in your business, whether it's a process, system, habit, whatever, that somebody listening might be able to take back and adopt into their own business to improve?
Sure. Well, I think, all systems are really good as a tool and can be accountability for large teams and for managers to manage people, right? That's ideal in scaling and essential. But for us, I remind my team over and over again that it's not good enough just to be a task manager of a system. That is a tool to execute a higher level, plan, which is to have a relationship with a customer, to create one, to maintain one, right? To create the great environment that we want our families to remember us by and to tell everybody about. So at the end of the day, it cannot take away the human touch and the human experience. And, AI will do a lot for us, but we want to make sure we're maintaining those relationships. So, our team has to remember that when they're using the systems, that they're being real and honest and friendly and sweet and thoughtful and caring, concerned about families, so that the families feel it's a safe place, a trusting place for their children to belong, right? So that's key. That won't ever go away. And I hope everyone that optimizes their companies with systems like MAP and others just remember that, right? That we have to still do the work to be, to be a caring organization in our community.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That is such a good answer.
When we think about like with the sales team, or any team with AI, I think that AI and some of these automation tools in general just allow us to eliminate redundant or manual, tedious tasks so that we can focus on those more important things, building those relationships, building the trust, because we have the same thing in our business, right? It's crucial. And I think it frees up time so you can focus on that.
Great. And one other thing I thought of was working through our values. It's, as I built this company, as I told you, I had to go in and clean the back end up after we got started, right? It was not the top priority, which is actually a funny note when you think about when you're beginning. The founder concept tends to be like create everything and then start, right? The launch is after you've set it all up and done all the things, but that can really stall you from getting going. And like, what are the most essential things to starting is customers and something that you're selling them, right? A good product and customers who want it and care about it, right? So that was very clear in the way I launched. Like nothing else mattered. But then obviously to run a quality program and have a quality business and scale, everything had to get cleaned up from there. Now I'm in the phase of revisiting my values to understand that, especially when I'm hiring and reviewing my team, it's the intangible stuff, right? It's our culture. It's how we operate. It's not what we do that matters most. And so now I'm actually working with a friend and a great consultant who has worked with, many companies in HR and ops and management and from the corporate world, like Google. And I said, okay, well, what are the things that are applicable here? Like, how do I take how a large corporate company can work and also, apply things, but still keep it relevant to us. So taking our values into our interview process, into how we hire, into how we onboard and how we review our team is critical now. And I think it's going to help me see the good, see where we're challenged, see the good fits. And, you can't train that stuff. You just can't train it. And people have to come in with that right attitude. So I think that's another layer of systemizing that is, so essential.
That's one of the 6. Yep. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Is it? Yeah.
It's one of the 6 things we teach. One of them is that side of it.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
I was going to say, if somebody wants to put that into practice, what's an example of how you weave that into the interviewing process for candidates?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So setting values, having your core values, having what that looks like in action. So it may be a statement, but what does that look like as a verb, right? What does the action look like? And so it can be interpreted in several ways, right? But, often each value can show up in many functional actions. So you take those and then you create questions that are relevant, right? And what I'm learning now is that often if you ask a candidate a question that you don't want to have them answer in a yes or no or short form, you want to create an opportunity for storytelling. So, tell me an example of a time when, right? And not trying to feed them the answer that you want, right? You just want to hear them out. And then that you're asking and looking for certain things like, say, adaptability or, what performing in certain settings. I'm trying to think of some examples here, but that, you're cueing them, but you're not telling them what you want them to answer at all. And you're just asking them to tell a story about examples in their career. So that helps you kind of understand how they would work, and not just what they're doing, but how, and their decision-making process, the challenges they face, what did they do about that? And then there's that, with interviewing, that next step. And then you ask them to go a little further, dig a little deeper, tell me more about that, so that you're going a little beyond the prepared answer.
Yep.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a great way to end with all those great tips.
Mm-hmm.
Fundamentals. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we went long. We had a lot of stuff, and including the call before the episode. We appreciate your time. Great. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. Before we wrap, where can people go to learn more about you, connect with you, or learn more about your business?
Oh, absolutely. My company's named the Dance Academy of Virginia. So it's danceacademyva.com is a website. You'll find us on Instagram and Facebook at Dance Academy VA. And then my handle is at Kat Horrigan.
All right.
Great.
Thank you again. Really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for listening. And we will see you next time.